Hello everybody and welcome back to Revisiting the Wizarding World. This is a series where we go back and rewatch every single Wizarding World movie, Harry Potter and the Fantastic Beasts franchise, watch them in order, which in case of these movies is just in their regular order, and then at the very end we're going to be ranking them from worst to best, so make sure you hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell notification down below so you don't miss out on that when that video drops. But in today's video we're going to be talking about the 5th installment of the Harry Potter franchise, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. With their warning about Lord Voldemort's return scoffed at, Harry and Dumbledore are targeted by the wizard authorities as an authoritarian bureaucrat slowly seizes power at Hogwarts. Now, ironically, last week I told you that Goblet of Fire was hands down my favorite book of the entire series, and it's my favorite story. However, with Order of the Phoenix, it's the exact opposite. It's probably my least favorite and like the worst of the worst for me, so watching this movie was a little bit of a chore, but with the dedication of making sure that I actually watched the movie for this series, got all my points across, I did it, I stuck to it, and I made sure to watch the entire thing for this series. So I hope you enjoy. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So far with this franchise, we've been swapping out directors like their Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers. Each film up to this point has had a new director, with the exception of Chris Columbus directing the first 2 films. In Order of the Phoenix is no exception to that cycle, but it would also break it. Order of the Phoenix would see director David Yates take up the Harry Potter franchise, and like my toddler with his tablet, he will not put it down. David Yates has directed every single Wizarding World movie up to this point, including the Fantastic Beasts movies, which we'll talk about later in this series, and he's still set to be doing so until that run is done. And let's be honest, he will likely continue this run if more stories are made, which, based on how popular this franchise has continued to be throughout the past 20 plus years, is more likely to happen every single day. So likely we'll be seeing more and more David Yates directed Harry Potter and Wizarding World franchise movies for at least quite some time. But regardless, this was his first entry into the franchise, and you can tell he put his own spin on things, but as the franchise was very well established by this point, he only really carried the direction from the previous 2 films and expanded on various aspects that the story carries us through. But by far the biggest hurdle that he would have to go through with this entry, whether that be the book or the movie, is Dolores Umbridge. Widely regarded as the biggest villain of the franchise, even more than Lord Voldemort himself, who I totally forgot to talk about last week, but I will do so in this video, Umbridge is the latest Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher who completely flips Hogwarts upside down. She enacts countless absurd rules and is so pro-ministry that it's almost sickening. She even tortures students and likes to live in this gray area of bending the rules while enforcing the harshest of them at the same time. She is an extremely difficult character to experience, but I have to give it to Imelda Staunton, who pulled it off flawlessly. I genuinely can't imagine what it must be like to be the most consistently hated character in a franchise, but she nails it. And before we go any further, let's go back a little bit, because I totally disregarded talking about Ralph Fiennes as Lord Voldemort last week when he actually first appeared in Goblet of Fire, so let's rewind a little bit and talk about that. Ralph Fiennes plays the character extremely creepy, and although he's not exactly as he is in the book, he certainly makes this character very much his own. The look of a noseless snake-like man is pretty creepy enough, and had they gone full book accuracy, it probably would have given its fair share of nightmares. But overall, the mannerisms and look are very fitting to what I would consider to be a Dark Lord. And it very much carries into the Order of the Phoenix from the previous entry, as well as he gets a little bit more screen time in this movie as well, which he definitely benefits from. However, Order of the Phoenix does take several steps back, at least in the CG department. Last week I praised this franchise for finally going in the right direction, but once again some of the ambitious storytelling doesn't quite fit the technology of the time. Such as with Sirius appearing in the flames in the Gryffindor Common Room. We saw this previously in Prisoner of Azkaban and it looked pretty cool. We saw this previously in Prisoner of Azkaban and it looked pretty cool in my opinion. However, it may not have been what everyone imagined it looking like based on how it appears in the books, but this one is just like a really bad mask effect that I feel like they maybe just didn't get any time to work on and they had put other efforts elsewhere. But for this one it just looked really bad and you could barely even tell Sirius's face was in these flames. There's also the Thestrals, which were cool, but quickly glossed over. Grop and the Centaurs also take a serious step back in terms of overall look of the CG, it just does not look good. They could have used something closer to forced perspective like they do with Hagrid, or even in the Fellowship of the Ring, but instead they opted for some horrid CG characters that just look eerie. One visual leap forward that this movie took over its predecessors, however, was with the use of the Daily Prophet and scene transitions. I think this is what truly set this movie apart in terms of visuals, as it adds a layer of world building while also giving a unique look into the movie that doesn't feel like your standard movie transition of a scene ending, establishing shot of a new location, and a new scene beginning. And another pro has to be the look and style of the Ministry of Magic itself. It's dark and cool, it feels very much like a government building, but it's also very unique. And I do have some of my own personal problems with the overall look, namely the main fountain that's featured in the books, but overall I love the look of the Ministry in general. I also have plenty of other gripes about the Order of the Phoenix, but in order to keep this video a little bit shorter than me just ranting for 10 plus minutes, we're gonna just go ahead and sum it up to this movie's just meh. I tried to watch this movie as objectively as possible, but I still found myself not really enjoying it. But I don't think that's any fault of the movie. The story, the villain, the twist, and how it builds from the previous installment into the next installment, however, is almost non-existent. And unless you have the context of the book that has quite a list of differences into this movie translation, there's little to enjoy here. You very much need the book context to understand a large majority of what's going on in this movie. However, with other installments, even if things were lost in translation, you could very much follow the movie for the most part. Now, with everything I've said in this video, you probably think this is 100% going to be in the last rung of this guy's list. But for that, you're pretty much just gonna have to wait until my ranking video at the end of this series. So make sure you hit like down below, subscribe, and ring that bell notification so you don't miss on any future videos from this series, as well as that ranking video, and pretty much anything else that I have going on. And also, if you want more content from me, head over to the Animated Apparel Company YouTube channel, where we have new content all the time, fun live streams, watch parties, and other awesome stuff there all the time. So make sure you head over there. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the next video.